What's up, friend? Welcome back to my channel. I am back on my bed. We still have no closet doors. Perhaps this is bringing up more questions about my living situation. Regardless, this is the last time that I'm going to be giving any sort of disclaimer as I continue to figure out how the hell to set up my YouTube videos in our new place. I don't know. I don't know when I'll know. Just understand that things will change deep dive to deep dive. Also, I have to let y'all know that something very special happened last weekend. We adopted our dog Junebug. She's hanging out with Will downstairs, so I'm not gonna go get her, but she is everything to me. I just want to take a moment to let you know, if you live in California, that the California Doodle Rescue has so many dogs that need to be fostered. They need to be adopted. With everything that's been happening in LA with the fires, there are just a lot of displaced animals right now. And so if you've been thinking about maybe getting a dog, now would probably be a good time to consider doing that. So I linked California Doodle Rescue's Instagram account below. That's where they post all the dogs that are up for adoption, so you can scroll through and see if any of them catch your eye. We had a really great experience with them. We love little Junebug and no regrets over here, and I highly recommend it. Okay, now let's get into this video. The influencer world can be glamorous and exciting, but it can also be wrought with elitism, public backlash, and unfair treatment behind the scenes. So what happens when one of the most popular content creators on the internet decides to be a little petty toward an influencery institution and fight back? Well, if TANACON taught us anything, absolute chaos. I want to take you back to Tana Mongeau's infamous convention and talk about how this gathering, so to speak, in an Anaheim Marriott took over the social media zeitgeist. I mean, it's been almost 7 years and people are still talking about it, clearly. Buckle up, okay? Here we go. The year is 2018 and storytime YouTubers like Gabby Hanna, Shannon Rose, and Olivia Cara have risen in popularity. And perhaps the queen of storytimes is a blonde Vegas teenager named Tana Mongeau. Her stories range from the iconic to the extremely out of pocket.
He fucked me with a toothbrush. He fucked me with a toothbrush.
She was quickly becoming a YouTube legend, and honestly, it was really refreshing to watch her videos in a time when social media was still very largely about the aesthetics. You have to remember that Tana Mongeau came up on YouTube in the same era as the Christian Girl Autumn bloggers in their Stuart Weitzman boots. The high saturation lifestyle girlies were still faking their morning routines on YouTube. Tana was different. In her simple bedroom setup, she told us stories that were relatable, vulnerable, entertaining, and usually low-key embellished a little bit. We all know that now, right? 2018 was also the height of creator-attended conventions like BeautyCon, IMATS, Playlist Live, and of course, VidCon. And as fans waited with bated breath to meet their favorite creators at VidCon 2018, a rant popped up from their favorite storytime YouTuber. Tana announced that she wouldn't be at VidCon 2018. It was shocking, but why? Well, Tana's first VidCon experience was in 2016, and leading up to the event, VidCon staffers assured her that she would be a featured creator. This would give her behind-the-scenes access to VidCon and a free hotel room. She'd get to go to the featured creator lounge, the featured creator parties, all of that. But when the featured creator lineup was announced, she wasn't on it. She decided to go because she was excited, and she'd already told all of her fans that she'd be there, and it was a complete disaster. Because she didn't have access to the featured creator sections at VidCon, Tana was constantly getting mobbed by her fans, and VidCon was constantly getting mad at her for it. VidCon assures her that she will definitely be a featured creator for 2017, and they drop the ball again. She's not on the featured creator lineup, despite starring in a YouTube Red series called Escape the Night that had actually partnered with VidCon that year. So she has all of these obligations for her show at VidCon and continues to get mobbed by her rabid-ass fans, and VidCon continues to get mad. Once again, they tell Tana that she'll definitely be a featured creator for 2018, and all will be well. But of course it is not, because come 2018, she finds out that she's actually been banned from VidCon because her fans are so freaking crazy. So Tana decides, you know what, fuck VidCon, I'm gonna do something better.
I think all of the rebelled people and all of the unwanted people should host a little meet and greet in Anaheim, California on the same days as VidCon. I'd love to do it. So if you guys wanna leave me suggestions of places in Anaheim to throw a free meet and greet below on my birthday at VidCon this year, let me know, because I'm gonna find a place and I'm gonna do it. Because fuck VidCon, and I don't want them to take your money, and I would love to meet you guys for free and cause a ruckus for free.
That was definitely a little joke, but her fans heard it and they were like, you know what? That's actually a really good idea. Hashtag TANACON. And the hype started building very fast. It was building so fast that Michael Weist, the CEO of this event planning company called Good Times, reached out to Tana and offered to help her make it all happen. Mind you, Good Times was a very small company. They had hosted meet and greets for a couple hundred people. They'd even worked with Tana before, but they had never planned something to the scale of TANACON. But regardless of everyone's lack of experience, they got to work with a glue gun and a petty dream. TANACON was gonna have 2 ticket tiers. The first one was free, and the second one, the VIP, was $65. VIPs, also known as featured fucking creators, would get exclusive access to different areas, they'd get to skip the lines, and they'd receive gift bags that were valued at 3 times their ticket price. There would be panels, musical performances, and meet and greets with a variety of popular creators. And let me tell you, for 2018, this lineup was stacked.
Shane Dawson, Bella Thorne, Ricky Dillon, Elijah Daniel, Gen X Penn, The Gabby Show, Mario Selman, Ashley Schwan, Amari Stewart, Christine Sedelko, Adam 22, Lena the Plug, Call Me Charisma, Chris Clemens, Emma fucking Chamberlain.
There would be a Facetune photo booth, a mugshot photo booth, a flash tattoo booth. This was really going to rival VidCon. And it would only be a short walk away from VidCon on the exact same day, so hopefully they'd be able to steal a few attendees and make VidCon look as bad as they'd made Tana feel. Thousands of tickets were sold, and TanaCon came together in less than 2 months. The weekend came, and fans flocked to Anaheim from all over the country, all over the world really, like people were flying in for this. But right from the start, things were getting messy. Thousands of fans filled the Marriott parking lot waiting to get in, and wildly enough, a lot of them were vlogging it, so we actually have a lot of footage from the crowd.
Alright, so horrible line.
Yeah, it's
Sucks.
a great time to be in Anaheim.
It is a great time. Wow. It's wrapped around the entire building many times.
Mind you, this was Southern California in the middle of June, so it was like the pits of hell. These people were in this parking lot with no food, no water, and clearly no sunscreen either because they were all getting burnt to a crisp. Meanwhile, inside TanaCon, there are Q&As, panels, performances. There was even a freaking wedding, okay? People got married. Lena the Plug officiated it, and Emma Chamberlain was the flower girl.
I do. She fucking does.
I need to know if they are still married. Does anyone know those people? Can you please tell me? I gotta know. So at least the event was still happening inside, despite the total shit show that was unfolding in the parking lot. Meanwhile, Michael's just rolling around on a Segway trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
Big mood. The biggest of moods, man.
Around 1:30 p.m., the fire marshals officially canceled TanaCon and shut everything down, and the crowd outside was fired up, physically and emotionally. Eventually, Tana, Bella Thorne, and a few other influencers went outside with Evian, and the crowd forgave everything for a solid 30 minutes. But it was a total disaster. A girl ended up leaving in an ambulance. The cops showed up to try to quell the crowd and get all of the YouTubers out of there safely. Tana went on Instagram Live and explained that the capacity of the hotel was 5,000 and there were 15,000 people in the parking lot rushing the registration tables trying to get in. And those people were wreaking havoc outside, but inside, everything was wonderful. I mean, even James Charles was coming for her in those comments. Now, it's important to note that Shane Dawson was a huge draw to TanaCon. The fact that he was on the lineup was major because he didn't really go to conventions, he didn't really go out, he wasn't the easiest person to meet, so this was a great opportunity for his fans to see him. I think a lot of us would argue, looking back at TanaCon, that the majority of the people were there for Shane. So a couple of days later, Shane went on Instagram Live and gave his opinion on the whole situation. In his eyes, TanaCon was doomed from the start because it was an impossible scenario. How were all of these creators gonna meet 5,000 fans? To him, it just felt like a scam.
I don't think there was 15,000 people there. I think there was 5,000 people there. I think they sold 5,000 tickets. I think 1,000 people went inside the building, and then I think the other 4,000 people were waiting outside and they couldn't get in because there wasn't room. I don't think there was a mob. I don't think it was a bunch of kids with no tickets. I think it was kids with tickets. I think they all bought tickets. I think they all bought tickets, and I think they all literally were standing in the sun for fucking 6 hours. And I'm sick of pretending like that's not how I feel, because it is.
So at this point, Chronically Online folks had a lot of questions about TanaCon. Was it a scam? If it was a scam, was Tana in on it? More importantly, who the hell is Michael Weist and why is he always on a Segway? And back in 2018, there really was only one way to get those answers: a Shane Dawson docuseries. In the series, Shane interviewed Tana and Michael both together and separately to really get the story straight. But to be honest, the docuseries raised more questions than it answered. Shane kicked off the docuseries by inviting a couple of TanaCon attendees over to his house to figure out what happened. And as the vlog footage had depicted, it was a hot mess. To make matters worse, they opened up one of those gift bags that went out to the featured fucking creators. And remember, these gift bags are supposed to be worth 3 times your ticket price.
Let's do an unboxing.
Oh wow, you actually got more than I did.
So
I just grabbed them.
Yikes.
While the fans were still there at Shane's house, the fire marshals from the event released a statement that there actually weren't 15,000 people outside as Tana had stated in her live. Not even close.
There was approximately 4,000 to 5,000 people at most. There was not 20,000 people there.
That means that there was 1,000 people inside, just like they said, and then 4,000 people with paid tickets outside.
So Shane hops on FaceTime with Michael Weist, and in between pulls from his vape, he tells Shane that he has footage of the entire event planning process and the event itself from start to finish, and he's gonna make a documentary exposing everything. Michael threw the Marriott and Tana under the bus. According to Michael, the Marriott had lied about their capacity limits, and it was his understanding that they would be able to fit 4,000 people inside. He'd also asked Tana if she would be okay with pushing the event back a little bit so they could get their shit together, and she refused.
Tana would basically give us all these things to deal with. I'm gonna meet 5,000 people. How the fuck is Tana gonna sit there and meet 5,000 people? But Tana would be like, the gift bag is gonna be 4 times what it is. The event's in 2 weeks, Tana. How are we gonna do that? I can't order product from China or here or where to get it into a goodie bag in time.
But what really cinched the waist was Friday night post-Tanapocalypse. Michael was crying on the streets of Anaheim trying to find another venue as Tana partied the night away. Michael was gonna lose his house, his company, and his dignity over this, and Tana's irresponsibility was to blame. And let's be real, at this point, Tana being irresponsible wasn't really that surprising. She had a reputation at the time for partying, for showing up late to work engagements, and for just being that fun, don't give a shit kind of girl from her story times. But Shane still needed to get Tana's side of the story, and when they met up, she was in shambles.
To let you down, people who love us and love me and love you. Down is so heartbreaking.
According to Tana, Michael was constantly reassuring her that everything was gonna be fine. Tana is a YouTuber, okay? She's not an event planner, so she put her trust in Michael and thought that he would be able to get it all done, and he failed her. Was she partying the night of TanaCon? Sort of, but she only went out to explain the situation to her fans.
So I'm gonna fight for a fucking bigger, better TanaCon next time. I don't care if it's in 10 fucking arenas, okay? With every police force in the United States, because I love you, okay?
So at this point, Michael's putting the blame on Tana, Tana's putting the blame on Michael, so what is the truth? Well, there's only one way to find out. Group FaceTime. Tana and Shane called Michael and the blame game continued. Tana was saying that Michael was a scammer, and Michael was saying that Tana was someone who could never take anything seriously. Even after the call, Tana maintained that Michael was a liar, a scammer, and a messy bitch who lives for drama.
I think he lied and lied and lied and lied and lied to me. I think he puts on a facade of all these investors and this big company and whatever, but it's a young kid with mommy's money and some interns and clients that are afraid of him.
Things were at a bit of a stalemate, and it was kind of seeming like both parties were equally at fault for the failure. Then Shane got a hold of Good Times contracts with their vendors. Now these were papers that Michael had signed as CEO, and according to him, Tana knew what was going on with all of this. The original idea for TanaCon was that most of the tickets were going to be free, with a few of the VIP featured fucking creator tickets being sold just to fund the event. In reality, over 5,000 featured fucking creator tickets were sold, and only a couple of hundred were free. On top of all of that, the ticketing company was withholding all of the profits from TanaCon, and they were well within their rights to do that because Michael had signed a contract stating that if anything went wrong with the event, he was on the hook to pay people back. This put Michael and Good Times on the hook for refunding $350,000 to TanaCon attendees. Security had obviously been a major issue at TanaCon, and Michael had assured Tana that they would have 90 security guards. When it came down to it, there were only 25. Finally, the Marriott's capacity capacity wasn't 4,000, 5,000, or anything close to that. Their capacity was 1,000 people. So now we don't know if Michael's the scammer, if Tana's the scammer, or if this is all just some weird fever dream. What we do know is the reason why VidCon screwed over Tana in the first place, because Hank Green, the creator of VidCon and a fellow YouTuber himself, had commented under Shane's docuseries explaining what happened. Simply put, Tana's past was a little controversial and VidCon didn't want anything to do with her. But it was a mistake to not make her a featured creator while also inviting her to do press for Escape the Night, so that was their bad. We also knew that Michael had all this footage and was making this documentary, so maybe we'd get the full picture and Michael could clear his name. But Tana beat him to it. Turns out she and her videographer had also been filming the entire thing, and her YouTube video answered questions that we hadn't even thought of. For starters, leading up to TanaCon, there were several people in Tana's circle telling her not to go through with it, especially with Michael Weist and Good Times. Her manager, her best friends, even Bella Thorne, they all knew that the vibes were off.
Bella got the worst vibes and was begging me every day to do TanaCon with her team, and God, I should have fucking listened.
But she believed in him, and she really wanted to fuck over VidCon, so she continued down the road past the fields of red flags. Michael was constantly filming himself and having people secretly film Tana for this documentary that she knew nothing about. He was even telling people that he was Tana's new manager and that she'd cut off the infamous Jordan Morona. But perhaps the biggest question that Tana had was,
why is he segueing everywhere?
Meanwhile, the Marriott's capacity number was constantly changing. One day, Michael would tell her that it was 2,000 people, and then the next day it was, oh, we found an additional ballroom, we can add 500. It was constantly seesawing like that, so it was very difficult to discern what the actual capacity was. Not to mention, the security situation was abysmal.
Face piercing, and you're not willing to do body slam?
Well, it depends how annoyed you're gonna get me.
A week out from TanaCon, the facade is starting to fade, and Tana's realizing that the Wizard of Oz is actually just some 21-year-old guy on a Segway. But it's kind of too late to call it off, so they continue on. On the day of TanaCon, Tana's on stage hosting panels and facilitating the fan marriage. She has no clue about the shit show that's unfolding outside of this Anaheim Marriott until it's too late.
We need to focus right now. This is critical, okay? We are in absolute doomsday scenario. This is worst case. We're shut down, okay? We need to figure this out now. So you can't come on. I need to, because the
As this is happening, VidCon staff have walked 5 minutes from the convention over to TanaCon to pass out waters, treat sunburns, and help these kids figure out where the hell to go. Michael tells Tana, oh my god, this is so iconic, there are 15,000 people outside. You should go on Instagram Live and thank your fans. And that's what she did. Shane Dawson calls her 5 minutes later and is like, what the hell is wrong with you? This is when she and Bella Thorne decide to go out to the parking lot with water and meet her fans. Michael is nowhere to be found at this point, so Tana heads into a conference room with Good Times staffers and they start singing like Arianka.
I found out in that boardroom that the morning of, he canceled the paramedics because he didn't want to spend the money on it, that he cut the security guards in half.
Tana puts it together now that she's gotten got, so she goes to the Studio 71 party to talk to her fans, grab that push broom, and start cleaning up this mess. The story makes sense. It makes sense that Tana would trust this guy because he had thrown a successful meet and greet for her before, he wore Chanel earrings, and he carried around one of those Windows tablet things. And while Tana is really creative and has great pie-in-the-sky ideas for TanaCon, Michael is the one who's supposed to be executing it, and he can't deliver, and people get sunburned. It was kind of a classic case of an influencer slapping their name on something, having big ideas, and trusting the wrong person to make it all happen. Tale as old as time. And perhaps this could be the end of the story, but Michael still had that documentary in the works, and this guy refused to go gentle into that good night. In fact, he did the opposite. He released the documentary and he went on Dr. Phil. In November 2018, Michael dropped his TanaCon documentary on YouTube, and unfortunately, it has been removed. Now it's on Amazon Prime for $4.99, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm not paying for that. I'm not gonna pay a dime for this. But I did read a bunch of synopses and reviews, so here's the gist. From my understanding, this documentary is just a bunch of clips in chronological order, okay? There's no commentary, there's no storyline, really. It's basically just Michael Michael's raw footage, and it all portrays Tana not taking the event planning process seriously at all. For example, they tell her that despite the capacity being 1,000, they're gonna be selling 5,000 tickets, and Tana is super excited to see the big crowd. It also showed her sleeping through meetings, it showed Michael again crying on the streets of Anaheim. Honestly, it didn't really show any new information as far as I know. It just confirmed that Michael was inept at planning and Tana had all of these big ideas with no idea on how to execute them. And she was flaky. Oh my god, it's so shocking. Anyway, things remained pretty quiet on the TanaCon front until 2019 when Tana announced that she would finally be attending VidCon as a featured creator.
VidCon and I are friends again. We're going to VidCon! We're going to VidCon!
So all was well in Tanaland. She continued to grow on YouTube, and now she co-hosts a podcast with Brooke Schofield. Another story for another day. Honestly, I feel like that's recent enough. We don't even need to go there. I think it's all pretty fresh. She and Trisha Paytas co-host a relationship advice podcast. She goes on tour, she gets infamous guests for her podcast, and she's still telling her iconic story times. As for Michael, Good Times filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and in 2019, he reemerged in a Hulu documentary called Jawline. This was about a YouNow influencer named Austin Tester, and it was all about his rise to fame, with Michael as his manager. Michael also got into it with Danielle Cohn, trying to expose her exploitation and drama. Chris Hansen got involved at one point. I'm not sure what was happening. And then 3 years after TanaCon, Michael went on the Dr. Phil show to clear his name. I have no idea who asked for this. I don't know which Dr. Phil producer had a hand in this, but it happened and it was a mess.
The reason I contacted Dr. Phil is I feel like he's the only person that can relate to what I'm going through. He's in the public eye and it's something that no one else can really understand.
They ended up bringing in a TanaCon attendee to confront him, as well as a past client and a couple of Good Times employees, former employees. The attendee was Amanda, aka Swell Entertainment, absolute icon, and she called him out for everything.
We can talk about some of the lies you mentioned earlier when I was watching your intro. We can talk about that.
In short, he was really defensive, it dredged up TanaCon, and it didn't even really clear his name. As for the client and his former employees, the client defended him and the employees just completely turned on him. What I found the most interesting though was that leading up to TanaCon, Good Times had another creator event that they all flew out to. Once they were there, Michael told all of his employees that they would have to earn their bed for the night. And who stepped in to save the day at that moment?
Actually, in that moment, Tana and her team were the ones who came to me and our coworker, and they rearranged all their sleeping arrangements, all their hotel arrangements, to make sure that me and my coworker had a bed.
I mean, the whole thing was a standard Dr. Phil disaster, and Michael has laid pretty low since. Although he did sue TikTok a couple years ago for banning one of his clients. Honestly, maybe I should hit him up if I get banned on TikTok again. Maybe he's changed. But to this day, there are still people in his Instagram comments talking about TanaCon just like I am. Wow. Thank you for sticking around till the end. If you like hearing about internet history, pop culture, reality TV, anything like that, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's what we talk about on here. That's my thing. You can also follow me on TikTok. I do the same shit over there. And with that, it is time for me to go downstairs and check on my daughter. See ya.